Oh, we're not
Big
live. I
We're
thought
not
we
big
were
live.
live.
No.
Oh, we're little live.
Will
We
is so
are
excited.
live, and this is the Rise Up Morning Show. Will is running the train off the track out of the station, and I'm gonna kick it right over to you, man. Take it away.
We're gonna grab that train and throw it right back on the rails here.
I'm picking on you, man.
But yeah. So for those of you on TikTok, you can't see, but we have Tom Dunleavy on. He's been a friend of mine. Basically, my roommate of 7 years in Boston, who I met on Craigslist, is the reason why Dunleavy is on the phone here. He's a TradFi guy who started working and getting involved in the crypto space by building a Twitter presence, loved and got interested in crypto, worked for Messari, works for MV Global right now. But Dunleavy, if you want to give yourself a little bit of background info, I think your story about how you got started is cool, because we tell people, if you want to get into crypto, make some content, write some articles, get involved, network, all that kind of stuff. And that's how you did it over on Twitter, if I'm correct. But if you want to introduce yourself to the people, go for it.
Sweet. I just want to make sure I'm on the right device. Are we looking at, I feel like that meme where it's like, fellow kids, welcome. What are you guys up to? Like, yeah. Skateboard over my shoulder.
Yeah.
So cool, man. Appreciate the intro. Appreciate you guys having me. So I did a lot of boring TradFi stuff for 10 years, managing portfolios there, but came over to Messari at the perfect time in 2021, just as things were peaking and unraveling, to lead up their research team for a number of years, and then came over to run a venture fund here at MV. So we've been investing in crypto as a business since 2019. So really early stage, pre-seed, seed investing, 350 plus investments. I manage the fund side of the business, which primarily is a venture fund, but we also have a liquid hedge fund where we trade assets as well. So very deep in the trenches. As Will mentioned, I'm usually chopping it up on Twitter with folks, for better or worse. And this is my first time on this platform, so I'm excited. We're not banned so far, and love to chat about the space.
Yeah, I think it's exciting for everybody. For people who don't see Tom, if you want to see him, he'll be over on the YouTube stream at Faceless Labs, or you can catch the recording later. And do be sure to follow him. His handle is right here on the screen if you want to catch up with his tweets. One of the things we wanted to talk to you about was your predictions today for the year ahead. And I have them summarized, written down. And if it's okay to put everyone on a quick level playing field, I'd like to just read them real quick. Is that cool with you guys?
Cool, man.
I'm not going to read the whole tweet thread because you have a lot of excellent commentary.
25 minutes later.
There are 10 predictions and there are 10 hot takes. And this is how they sound. 10 predictions for 2025. First of all, 2x growth in major assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, with predictions respectively by year end at $250K, $12K, and $700 a token. Number 2, Trump's administration will make tangible legislative process in 2025, unwinding Operation Choke Point, creating a coherent regulatory framework like establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Number 3, a return to fair launch tokens with about 25% distribution on day one, changes in unlocks to improve liquidity, get rid of those low float, high FDV nightmares. Number 4, crypto wealth effect, driving increased activity with trading and investment volumes rising by 100 or 200%. Number 5, DeSci will scale significantly with at least 10 projects reaching 100 million plus market cap. Number 6, AI agents will become ubiquitous with at least 3 agent protocols reaching over $1 billion in MCAP. Number 7, a bear market could be on the horizon, revealing true fundamentals and possibly leaving a non-major altcoin layer 1 in the dust. Number 8, growth of revenue generating tokens with at least 3 protocols implementing dividend-like mechanisms if we get some friendlier regulations. Number 9, hype machines, new retail hype machines, alternative social media platforms like TikTok will surge among retail crypto investors, especially Gen Z. 10, continued growth in the secondary market with an expected volume of 5 billion in notional secondaries. And I am just going to sprinkle through these hot takes because some of my favorites are the ton network resurgence. I happen to share that prediction. Possibly reaching $20 during the 2025 bull cycle. Tokenization of almost everything, including new types of digital goods. Meme coins 2.0, a transition from viral hype to mainstream assets. You mentioned, I think, Flowkey. I would add maybe bonk, with utility creating a sort of new floor, but not necessarily the mechanism by which we value these tokens. And then you predicted crypto will infiltrate mainstream media with at least one TV show on crypto surpassing 50 million viewers. And finally, a true AAA game on par with major titles will emerge, with Off the Grid being your pick to reach 1.5 million daily active users. That's a quick roundup. If you want to see all the predictions, check the pinned tweet at Dunleavy89. Lots of good commentary there. Do you want to elaborate on any of these, Tom? Do you guys just want to jump right in? Will had mentioned a couple that he was excited to talk about, and I am too.
What I kind of want to dive into first is the comments around the bear market will reveal true fundamentals, and at least one layer one could go kaput. I want to get your take on which layer one that's popular now that is most at risk of being the one to go kaput in your mind, and why.
Yeah, so maybe it makes sense to start with the top line view of where we see the major asset classes going and the timeline for that execution. So, last year we were extremely bullish on Bitcoin, called for 100K early in the year when it was 30 or below. This year we're calling for 250K by the end of the year on Bitcoin, over 12K on ETH, and 700 on Solana. So Solana, very much on the way there. Bitcoin, part of that prediction is we think a strategic reserve is going to be implemented in the first 100 days of this presidency. That drives that 250K prediction, along with onboarding of corporates, onboarding of other sovereign nations, a lot of the game theory that plays out around the strategic reserve. ETH, less popular prediction now on the crypto sphere and probably on the Twitter sphere, but we think ETH still has the majority of all activity within crypto. The majority of stable coins is a very easy TradFi asset. They just launched this new Etherealize Foundation to advocate for TradFi. Trump's World Liberty Financial is buying 10 million ETH a day.
Oh yeah.
It's
10 million
really,
ETH a day. I knew they had like 200 million ETH in their wallet.
He's been like market buying essentially this whole week. So it's crazy what he's doing. So there's a huge conviction there, and people will say like, hey, he launched his meme coin on Solana. Like, honestly, he didn't launch the meme coin. He has a team who does it. Solana's the best place to launch meme coins. We're very bullish on Solana, but I think people are underestimating ETH here. So as a fund, our biggest position is slightly Solana over ETH, but we hold both of those as our two biggest positions. So very bullish on both of those. In terms of the overall cycle, we think the cycle is actually going to progress further than people think. Most people have called for a top in Q2 or maybe even into the summer. We think this cycle is going to go into early 2026, primarily on the back of continued institutional adoption and a lot of the onboarding, not only from the sort of RIA crowd, so those wealth advisors that are going to start putting this stuff in portfolios, but also from people, friends, family, who start to really understand how to purchase other assets on chain, whether it be through Coinbase or others. And that's just getting started. I'm sure you guys got a million texts like, hey, this Trump coin's live or whatever. Like, how do I buy this thing? Was it on Coinbase? And you're like, well, no, it's not on Coinbase. You got to go here. So like that stuff's going to get easier, but it takes time. So, if you think about just even the Bitcoin ETFs, which were approved over a year ago, 3 in 5 financial advisors still don't have access for their clients for those Bitcoin ETFs right now.
Really?
So like Merrill Lynch, Vanguard.
It's that high still. Yeah.
Are still extremely high. And a lot of that is actually to do with legislation, partly in legislation that was just overturned. So SAB 121, which your viewers may have heard about, which is essentially, if you're a bank and you want to custody crypto, you have to hold, against your capital reserve crypto, you have to hold cash, which you don't have that bar with any other asset. And it makes it really hard for banks to custody and hold crypto. Now, like folks like Bank of America and Merrill Lynch, which is their brokerage arm, which is where a lot of people have their investment accounts, took that to say, like, we can't hold crypto at all. We can't hold, Bitcoin, whatever. So that is directly changing. You've heard, all these CEOs talk about it at their big World Economic Forum in Davos last week. Like, they want to bank crypto. They don't get much money they get money from traditional financial assets, but guess what? Those spreads are really narrow. Crypto, you can widen out the spreads and you can make a shit ton more money because there's a shit ton more volatility, ton more spreads you can have. So these guys are going to jump right in, which, there's a lot of interesting points to be had there in terms of whether we want all the banks in crypto. Really, it goes very much against the ethos, but in terms of actually purchasing the assets, it's very bullish there, and it's going to onboard a lot of RAs, which onboards our parents and everybody else who could buy this stuff in their 401k plans. And when those guys start buying, it's not like, hey, let me just grab, Bitcoin once. It's, hey, I'm just going to put it in my 401k and my paycheck buys it every 2 weeks when my paycheck hits. So you start just getting these and this is what's happened with traditional financial markets over the past 20 or 30 years. You get these passive flows every 2 weeks from mostly 401ks and others that just essentially just like keep buying the market and buying the dip. We're going to start to see that for crypto. So our prediction is 2026, we see the cycle extend. And to circle all the way back, I'm doing the Trump weave, like you go all the way around. And we're weaving back to, we think a bear market will happen, but it'll be in 2026. And a lot of the bear market hopefully will unveil these true fundamentals for projects that are really interesting, that are gaining a lot of cash flows. So things like Aave on Ethereum, which is making a ton of money, borrowing and lending, Camino on Solana doing the same thing, Maker, a lot of others that are making a lot of money. Even things like Pump.Fun on Solana, which is making, well
Big
into
time.
the 9 digits.
So much money.
Hyperliquid, another one that's making, I think, 500 million annualized revenue. These things are making a ton of money. And the cool thing about crypto is the marginal cost of these things is effectively zero, right? You're distributing the cost among all the validators. So these businesses, while the multiples may be high, the growth rates and actual expense ratios are really, really low. So they're great businesses. So we think, a lot of those things will be uncovered in the bear market. A lot of fun stuff with meme coins and everything now. But as more traditional financial folks come in, and I'm in a hotel room here in Miami right now because I'm at Miami Alts Week, which is a big TradFi focused alternatives week. And everything I talk about with all the people last night, happy hours and stuff is okay, cool, this stuff's going up, but how do I invest? What do I tie my investments to? How do I think about these things? There's no DCFs that make sense. So people want things to hold on to, and they're going to start to circle back to a few of those things, as we get more professional investors involved. Still a lot of fun to be had, but, we'll return to some fundamental basis here in the future.
Mm-hmm. So with the question I want to go back towards is the effect of ETFs. The ETFs are going to grow, and you're going to get more of this passive flow income into crypto that will just, like with the stock market, slowly just kind of automatically raise that floor up, right? As you give 401ks, all that passive flow. And so I've been telling people, I think the days of Bitcoin's bear markets being 80% corrections are gone with. I've been saying that for a while now. And I think it's going to act more like, gold's worst bear market is a 40% correction over the course of a couple of years. How do you think the bear market is going to affect Bitcoin? And then also your thoughts on altcoins. I think altcoins can still go down 90% or so, but because we don't see that passive flow there the same way, except for maybe Ethereum right now because it has the ETF. But what are your thoughts on how the bear market will be affected as compared to how it worked in the 4-year cycle?
Yeah, this is where we got to put on our macro hat again. So the biggest scoreboard for President Trump in the past administration was the Dow Jones and the S&P 500. Now it is Bitcoin, and now it is crypto. He looks at it every day and talks about it almost every day. The other important point here is if you're a president, you can juice the stock market, I don't know, call it 2x over your term. That would be a ridiculous return in traditional finance.
Oh, yeah.
It is remarkably easy for a man that we know holds crypto in a number of companies in a number of avenues to juice his returns there 5, 10, 20x plus, because the asset class is so much smaller. Because we've seen it already with the Trump meme coin. That's just one very small example. And if nothing else, we know Trump is about his bottom line. So he is going to be very supportive of the market along with all of his policies. So that means, and you've seen it already, put in a very favorable Treasury Secretary we know is pro crypto and pro, a lot of the policies he wants, including some minor tariffs, pro CFTC chair, pro SEC chair, et cetera, et cetera. So what that means to me is this next bear market will be much less protracted, much less drawn down, because all of those things mean that, and we've heard it here from folks that we deal with and investors, is hey, crypto's legal now again in the US. I'm way off sides. Everyone's off sides because you had this 0 to 1 moment where crypto was effectively illegal in the US to crypto now being totally legal. And now everyone has to just buy whatever they can
catch up
to get on board, which you would think would be an immediate, and we kind of saw this in November, we went from 50K Bitcoin to 110 quickly, but it takes a while for the rest of that whole operational TradFi component to sort of get online. But they all have to buy things. So you're going to see a lot of M&A. You're going to see a lot of traditional flows into spot assets. but it's going to take, slightly longer than folks think, which means the bear market is going to be pushed out further and be less protracted in its drawdown. Now, traditional bear markets in, S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or whatever, 20, 30%, very typical. So I think we'll see that in crypto going forward, but from much higher levels. So if we get to 250K this year, like we're predicting, and we draw down to 180, I don't think people are going to be that disappointed. Maybe they will be, considering.
There's always disappointment.
Considering we went up to 110 and then we're down at like 100 and people are acting like the sky's falling out.
On the way up, people were like, wow, $95,000 Bitcoin. And now they're like, oh no, $95,000 Bitcoin. We might get it again.
So many memes.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So
I was just saying it's about time for that meme to circulate that has like the big line of people waiting to buy Bitcoin at all-time highs and, cobwebs on the stand with Bitcoin at 10 or 20% down or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like
it's a classic.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, I have a quick note for the folks who are asking one more time. You can find Tom's handle right here. This is Tom Dunleavy. He's with MV Capital. He's got a background in TradFi. He made his way through Messari to this moment to talk to us about some of his predictions for the market going forward. And one that I've seen asked about a couple of times.
Wait, don't forget. He and I battled each other in fantasy football. So
that's right. That's right.
Really
he and Will go way back. This is a frenemy-ship that we are bringing our personal lives into business. And we absolutely expect to get fantasy football bets, maybe a Super Bowl pick before you go. We have a lot of questions about a couple of different things, and I wonder if you can touch on them in one answer. Sure. Looking to the future, something people are curious about is the executive order that was signed recently. And specifically, I'm seeing some questions about, you mentioned a strategic reserve is something you expect to see in 100 days. And we got this stockpile language in the executive order. And I'm curious to know if you think the stockpile is the strategic reserve, what you think about that, if you can just clarify your thoughts. And then people are asking about real world assets, the appeal to TradFi of something like Ondo. And I wonder where that lines up with your prediction for tokenized everything. Because my understanding, based on what I read from you, is that maybe yes, but also so much more than just the kind of maybe TradFi assets you would think we would tokenize. So can you touch on that too?
Sure. So Bitcoin strategic reserve, I think there's two important things to kind of break down here. So there's the strategic reserve that Lummis proposed. So Senator Lummis out of Wyoming, who now chairs the Senate Digital Banking Committee or whatever they're calling it.
We love that
subcommittee there. She proposed 5 million Bitcoin purchased over, I think it was 5 years, which would put our strategic reserve on par with gold. And the way she proposed funding that was actually marking the gold up on our book at the Fed from, I think it's held like $40, which is crazy, all the way up to whatever it is today, 2,500, I don't know the market price right now, and using those gains to effectively purchase Bitcoin. Now, will that happen? Potentially, but it has to go through, the House, the Senate, and then be passed as a law. Which it seems like, we know there's a lot of pro-crypto proponents within the administration now because they've all been elected on this platform. If you look at standwithcrypto.org, you can see 270 of the folks that actually elected out of the, only 300 whatever, were pro-crypto candidates, and crypto had a lot to do with their electoral victories. So you can bet that they're going to be voting for crypto because crypto is the biggest voting block after like the NRA now. So, for sure, that's going to be a part of it. So that's her bill. Then you have the Bitcoin, this new stockpile, which Trump issued in this new executive order. Now, I think that's primarily Bitcoin, or likely to be primarily Bitcoin, but they're leaving themselves open to other assets. Because, smartly, they're thinking now like tech business first. So David Sachs, who's on the All In podcast, really successful entrepreneur, is leading this council. So he's going to look at all crypto assets. Now, important for the viewers to note is David Sachs has been a Multicoin LP since day one. Multicoin's biggest holding, they hold over $1 billion in Solana. So I think they're on fund 3, 4, something like that. You could very well bet he's going to be looking at Solana and Ethereum, most likely, and a few other assets. Now, what folks are getting a little bit miffed about is, okay, now we're talking about other kind of assets that we don't consider crypto, like XRP, right? I just tweeted about this the other day. XRP lost the first 30,000 blocks of their platform. So like, and you have a lot of people who have Trump's ear, like Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, who are trying to actually get in that stockpile. So the period for evaluating the stockpile is 180 days, and they'll come to a conclusion about what they should buy. Now, my bet is they're going to evaluate that and say, hey, we're going to buy Bitcoin, and we'll probably, because they already have a lot of these other assets from seizures, we'll probably hold a lot of these other assets, maybe have some net purchases, evaluate on some period, whatever. But the large majority of that is going to be Bitcoin. They just want to leave themselves open to other opportunities, other actions, whatever. Now, there's another way that Trump can actually proceed forward with purchasing Bitcoin, and it's called the Exchange Stabilization Reserve Act. It's part of the Gold Act of 19 whatever, I don't know, FDR's time. But effectively, it says that the president can direct the Treasury Secretary to actually purchase things that stabilize the US dollar. So that could be gold, it could be commodities, it could be equities, it could presumably be Bitcoin. So there still is this window now that if the Lummis bill doesn't go through, if the executive orders for the stockpile don't work out as planned, Trump can still go and actually purchase this or direct the Treasury Secretary to purchase Bitcoin or other assets. Now, two things we want to remember. So like Trump's bottom line, really important to him. David Sachs, all in crypto, obviously loves it, holds it in his personal assets. If they come to these 180 at the end of this 180 days and say we're not buying crypto, I would be shocked. Like, why?
I think we'd all be flabbergasted.
It'd be wild.
It makes no sense. So like, everyone on Twitter and TikTok are all freaking out. Like, we didn't get this, like, hey, we're going to buy it day one, but like, they're going to be buying it in the next like few months. So like, this is ridiculously awesome news.
Like you said, if you care about the bottom line more than anything, you don't want to send it to the stratosphere the first 10 seconds that you're here.
You got to pack your bags first.
Yeah, you got to pack your bags
Presumably
first.
You would like to acquire it at first, which is why something like the liquidity suck with the Trump meme coin actually makes a lot of sense from a bag packing strategic point of view.
100%. So really, really bullish that if you have lofty price predictions for Bitcoin this cycle, like we do, you have to have strategic reserve as part of your playbook. And I think folks are casting a lot of moral aspersions on this, especially Bitcoin maxis, like, hey, we don't want the government involved in our Bitcoin. We don't want them to hold this much, like, et cetera, which I get. But hey, like, guess what? Like, Saylor owns a significant portion of Bitcoin. BlackRock owns over like 6% of Bitcoin through their, folks who are holding their ETFs. Like, the carts, the horses already left the barn. So like, it kind of is what it is. So if you want price action to go up, like, you can judge morally or you can trade and make money off of it. So
Tom,
I think it's gonna.
Wait, I love this comment here from Buffster. This guy is the bull master running into 2026, 12K ETH. Yo, pump it up, let's go. He's the bull master.
I'm not bullish on everything. Not bullish on everything. Go ahead. Yeah.
Just about on the strategic Bitcoin reserve topic.
I love Will's friends.
One of the things we're seeing actively right now, like if we don't have an announcement of the federal strategic Bitcoin reserve, but we have this kind of whisperings of a digital asset stockpile, what could that mean? Some of the maxis are upset about it, some of them aren't. For the record, I do think this kind of government involvement, TradFi involvement, big bank involvement was always inevitable. The difference is that everyone else had the opportunity to front run this industry for the first time in human history before all of them got here. So if you slept through it, or you are refusing to stop sleeping through it, then, I think that's on you. But I'm curious if you think that an avalanche of individual states launching their own strategic reserves, because we have Arizona's, I think it was Arizona yesterday being the first one to actually move out of the state legislature into the state Senate onto the floor, even though Utah said it was going to be them. So shots fired, Utah.
All right, Utah.
And we've got Dennis Porter coming on tomorrow night, so I'm excited to hear his take on this. But I mean, what do you think about an avalanche of states coming in either in lieu of or front running the U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve? Do you think there's kind of that state on Fed like competition right now, or does that influence your opinion on it at all? Or
so I think there's folks want to think that the government are strong capital allocators, but they're the fucking worst in the world. So they like honestly do not care what the price is. They're not like, we need to get a good average buy price on Bitcoin right now. So let's like hold this bill so we can get a 150 fill versus a 200 fill, right? Like, it's just like not happening. So
set my limits. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just not happening. So these guys are talking about, and especially like, so I used before in TradFi, I used to advise state pensions, and like, here's a story. So like, we actually had to go to the state legislator to be able to buy high yield bonds because like in their charter, they said they couldn't buy high yield bonds, which like high yield bonds are part of every single portfolio.
Yeah,
and,
that's
like
interesting.
So like we had to go get like voted on. So like you can just imagine the mountains they would have to move to like get Bitcoin even like thought about. So like these things are going to have to go to edit to the charters that they can and the investment mandates for each one of these individual states. So that shit takes forever because these things move on a quarterly basis. Like we have, I think 7 to 10 that are in flight right now. I would anticipate a handful of those get passed, but a lot of those will get rejected. So Dennis would be the one to talk to about the individual states that he thinks have the best likelihood. I think there are a number that will go through. And the aggregate capital for these pensions is enormous, like bigger than states. Like the state pension fund of California and Texas and New York, each individual one of those are like bigger than most nations, like bigger than Canada, bigger than all European nations. Like even if they buy like 1 to 2%, it is a huge, meaningful amount. So we're going to get a handful, which is part of the thesis as well. So like, and this is sort of like the game theory that's played out by just even the conversation at the US government level, having a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Like say I'm completely wrong and none of this stuff goes through and they don't buy with the stockpile. Like the genie's already out of the bottle with all of these other states that are already moving, countries that are already moving. Like we've heard rumors that a lot of big Middle East buyers are starting like, buying on dips and have already bought on dips because they want these things in their stockpiles as they try to move off, an oil-based revenue stream throughout their economy. So you're going to see huge amounts of purchases from the Middle East. Again, not to sound too bullish, but like there's just a lot of people who are on the sidelines right now. Yeah. This whole regulatory shift just moved things really, really quickly.
Yep. And I was also doing the math on MicroStrategy's raising of capital by issuing out at what is it? 1 billion shares for the purpose of raising capital to buy more Bitcoin. I did the math on it. If the price of MicroStrategy were to fall, it's like $380. If you release that many shares, it should fall to something around 12-ish. We'll see what it actually happens. But basically, if just 10% of that goes into Bitcoin buying, it's about $1 billion. It was the quick and dirty math that I did. And $1 billion into Bitcoin is still quite a bit of Bitcoin. It's about 100,000 Bitcoin. But if MicroStrategy does something like that, I was like, in my personal, I'm like, well, MicroStrategy alone could send Bitcoin to like $150,000, $180,000, and then you have all these strategic reserves on top, the Middle East, all this stuff. But I want to get your opinion on MicroStrategy because that's also a divisive topic. Also, a lot of people think it's the biggest risk to Bitcoin because if something happens to MicroStrategy and they have to sell Bitcoin, that's a problem. We had this story that I think was just a FUD story that came out that said that MicroStrategy is going to have to pay unrealized tax on their Bitcoin gain. And then in the same article, it's like, actually, this isn't true. It was like, I read the article. They're like, well, actually, this is just like a maybe scenario. I was like,
MicroStrategy FUD is just like Tether FUD now. Anytime someone wants to get their panties in a bunch, then we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, but what are your thoughts on MicroStrategy? Good, bad, neutral, and then your thoughts on if you've added the calculation of the shares that they're raising as a part of your 250K Bitcoin price.
So MicroStrategy owns about 2% of Bitcoin today. They own it at a 2x premium. And essentially what Saylor's calculus is to compress that NAV until it's effectively zero and build a Bitcoin bank around that. So that's borrowing, lending, operations, issuing debt. So he's issued a lot of these convertible notes. And what effectively that's capturing is the volatility of Bitcoin. And he's going to be issuing other fixed income securities like that. And what that does is open up Bitcoin to all these people who couldn't purchase it beforehand. So all those like state pensions and all those other people, like traditional type funds, a lot of them have very specific mandates. Like, hey, I can only buy this type of security with this type of asset profile. Saylor is essentially saying, I'm going to provide you all of those opportunities through MicroStrategy and open up the net new purchase of Bitcoin to all those folks. So net positive. Whether or not he has to be liquidated, I don't think that's a huge risk. Personally, he still has controlling share. And if we just assume that we get back to parity with the actual Bitcoin he holds versus the stock price of MicroStrategy, I think we're in a decent place. Could it trade below net asset value? Like, absolutely. But in terms of the price action going up, I don't think so. I mean, his average purchase price for Bitcoin right now is about 60K. Yep. So that's a long way to go down. And he was below his purchase price a number of times last year and had no liquidation preferences. So personally not too concerned, but I could see some worries there. Personally not on my bingo card this year.
Yeah, it's not on mine either.
So one of your predictions that we wanted to talk about was, this is number 5 on the list, that DeSci will scale significantly with at least 10 projects reaching $100 million+ market cap, focusing on health data and collaborative research. And I wanted to invite you to elaborate on that, because DeSci as a narrative has certainly been hot and has, if you paid attention to it, maybe made you some money as a speculator. But I think we're kind of skeptical on this show about the potential for DeSci to, we love the idea of decentralizing stuff and think it can be helpful, redistribute power, money, create dual value propositions. But I think we're kind of skeptical of a lot of the DeSci stuff that we see. So can you elaborate and let's talk about it?
You're not bullish on Haircoin.
I am not bullish on
HairDAO. You're not bullish on HairDAO. This is very concerning. No, honestly,
I mean, if you saw, you'd understand, man.
You're good. I mean, I get it. You're good. Yeah, you're
long
good.
on hair.
Good
long on hair. Bullish on hair.
Very on hair. So this is more, we saw this last year with DeepIn, which we're big investors in. These things move in narrative. So so crypto started off as this monolith. You have like Bitcoin, and you had all L1s, like, Ethereum, Solana, and now we're spiraling off into this unbundling of actual use cases for crypto. So you have AI, great, which is I think part of DeepIn, but then you have like DeSci, you have DeFi, etc. Whatever, put your acronym going forward. This is the unbundling of all of the use cases that crypto actually provides. Now, decentralized science is one that we think is going to see an enormous amount of funding. And you've already seen this from Vitalik and others. You have this weird effect when you get extremely rich. And if our predictions for Bitcoin and Ethereum come to fruition this year, is you sort of have this existential crisis. It's like, what the fuck do I do now? Like, what do I do with all this money? And a lot of these really, really rich folks have funneled that money into longevity and other research purposes. So if the asset class goes up, a lot of this money will be funneled back right into DeSci. And decentralized science solves a lot of problems, primarily around the research avenues and the perverse incentives you have there at the research institutes today that are very clear solutions that can be provided by crypto. So that's like, finding better candidates who want to actually come in for these research trials. That's funding actually the best science with provable work rather than, sort of copy paste or things that, your individual research institute wants published, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of interesting names that are emerging here, all the way from the speculative. I think you have like Pump.Science, all the way to, really interesting ones like Research Hub, which funds, very real world problems. So the important thing here, and this is what happened with DeepIn, is the sector is so small that it doesn't take that much capital to actually really accelerate it and get it growing as well. So you're going to see a lot of capital from these folks who are already in the industry and are excited about it, but then solves a lot of problems and doesn't take a lot to move the needle for this new sort of vertical here. And you have this mimetic value of like, DeSci, all of a sudden that's the new narrative, and it sort of captures the next bubble. So a lot of interesting ones there. Research Coin I mentioned, VitaDAO, there's very specific ones like, as I mentioned, HairDAO, but I think there's a lot more coming. It's really just kind of early days here, as most of the sector is really, really new.
Okay, so I don't disagree. One of my predictions for the year was that we would continue to see the proliferation of like nichified crypto sectors, but that those nichified sectors, while they tapped into something, a problem decentralization could meaningfully solve, like some of the things you mentioned in scientific research, I think most of them will put a crypto token that is mostly speculative on those things and create an incentive bind. Just by the stats, there are a variety of institutions that have done a lot of research about the costs of clinical trials, of bringing a drug to market, and we're talking, billions of dollars. And if I'm going to launch a meme coin on Pump.Science and hit $1 billion market cap, like that's really cute, but I might have one shot to bring one drug or do one kind of thing. 90% of all this scientific research, if you're talking about drugs, for example, products, they fail in the sense that the product or service never comes to market. So it's like I don't know. I think something I'm seeing, at least from these early movers, and what I'm looking for is like proof in the pudding. Like what are the problems that we can meaningfully solve with speculation, and what do those incentive models look like? Because I just don't think they look like this. Whether we're talking decentralized science or even DePIN, I feel like what I'm seeing a lot of is people putting a crypto token on it, or raising a lot of money like they have, in the past, making founders and early supporters rich, and everybody else is left holding a token that doesn't really solve the problem we say it's going to.
Yeah, it's a very real problem. So it's a great point, Evan. Crypto is the most pure form of capitalism at its heart. It's decentralized, anyone could participate, and anyone could have the upside or downside of an individual asset they want to invest in without barriers or regulation or censorship resistance. There's very good and very bad things with that. So if we want true crypto capitalism, you're going to have to accept the good with the bad, and there's no other way around that. There's the medium ground of having some government guardrails. What I think personally is most interesting is the ability for all of these projects to be open and honest and say what they want to do with their token or project. The problem becomes when they promise something and it's something else. So we're going to launch a token about, raising for this cause, and you use the money on something else. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I mean, companies fail all the time, which I think we have to start viewing these protocols more and more like companies as we go.
Agreed.
Yes, absolutely.
What this whole token environment and meta kind of opened up, though, is crypto is now part of the capital stack. So like you're a company, you can issue debt or equity or any flavor of that. But now a lot of these companies, I'm sure, are thinking like, how do I think about a token strategy? What does that mean for me? And that token strategy could be, could have some level of cash flow. It could just be a meme coin, right? It could be like, hey, I'm selling effectively my IP like Trump has, right? If you're Harvard University, like you're not issuing your equity or your debt or whatever, but could you use a token as a new strategy for fans of Harvard who want to buy your token, and it's like a club membership, whatever, presumably. There's a lot of like design space. I think that tokens open up and above just providing decentralization.
Yeah.
Now, if that's good or bad, I'm not sure, but it's going to happen in my view. So we just have to have honesty and transparency in these things and what you're actually looking to do with these tokens. And I think that's where, folks get pissed if they lose money on a meme coin, but if it's like, hey, I'm buying this thing because I know I'm gambling, like, are they really that mad? Like sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's when they're deceived or tricked or someone dumps something that they really get mad.
Exactly.
Rightfully so.
Oh, yeah. I know you only have 13 minutes. There's another topic I wanted to dive in here with you on, and it was your prediction on how token unlocks are going to be changing moving forward. So, and in that prediction, you also mentioned how the token unlocks will be changing because of how the current way token unlocks have mostly happened have been unhelpful to the raising of their revenue and capital and market cap and all that kind of stuff. So can you paint the picture for the audience of how token unlocks, what the biggest trend has been lately, where you see that trend going forward, and why you think that is a better way for crypto projects to launch and create their tokenomics?
Yeah, so we started off in 2017 with the ICO era. So that was Ethereum and other major L1s that effectively had these large crowd sales where you had 55 to 60% of token supply actually just net sold into the market. Mm-hmm. If you look over time, that has trended down all the way to about 5% on average last year in terms of distributions of these tokens. And that's primarily because of regulations. So the only place you could sell these tokens in large crowd sale platforms is offshore through like CoinList or one of the other launch pads. Now, because, and a lot of that has to do with like accredited investor laws and like you can only give money to these people if you are very aware of the risks, blah, 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 blah. So there's going to be changes going forward. And this is already starting to happen. You've seen Legion launch, which is incubated by Delphi, that has like a broader crowd sale platform for accredited investors, but within the US and other regions. Echo, which is launched by Kobe, who's like a big Twitter personality. And there are more of these platforms that reward like hey, I have all this social following. Hey, I'm like a GitHub contributor or whatever. Like, I'll buy this token, and I'm less likely to dump because I have some social clout. And that's like the first step. The next step is as accredited investor laws are actually rolled back a bit in the US. So right now you need, $1 million in net liquid assets, excluding your home, where you need to make, I think it's like 300K over a number of years each year to actually qualify, which is like 0.1% of the population in the US. There's already bills to roll that back and make it a lot more accessible for folks to actually purchase in these private placements. Because over time, if you look at the return profiles of stocks, they've been great. Crypto, up and down, of course, depending what you're invested in. But the best performing investments have actually been venture capital and private equity, which have performed like 15, 20% plus per year. And it's only accessible to these accredited investors, which is like a huge financial inclusion problem. So for these like congressmen and senators and others, like they're like, okay, wow, we need to roll these back, make them a little easier, which is going to allow us and normal investors to actually participate on the private side, like a venture investor, and buy a lot of these protocols that you couldn't previously buy. So like, when I buy into a $40 million seed round and it launches at like 400, 500 million, it's like great for me, but retail can only get it at that 400, 500 million seed round. Liquid valuation. So that's going to change as more folks are able to participate in these markets. And there's going to be a lot more fair launches. And that's what protocols want, because you don't want everyone and all the VCs to have all of these like huge gains that they want to dump. You want people to come in to be able to purchase these things and distribute your supply and have like, very marginal like net sell pressure. So I think it's gonna be a big thing this year.
And that ties into your prediction kind of about like secondary sales too, making it easier to pass the potato, because the potato isn't something everybody just wants to dump. It's like, oh no, I would buy that because it's a better deal for me. Tom, before you run away, we have just a couple rapid fire questions. The first one is, we know you're long on Bitcoin, ETH, and SOL, but the audience wants to know, what are you bullish on? What else are you looking at? What are you excited about? Maybe just give us a rapid fire list of things that have your attention or MVs.
Decentralized physical infrastructure. We have a very long report for anyone who knows how to use DeepSeek or Chat GPT. You can toss it in there. It's 40 pages and has a lot of investment frameworks and individual ideas for DePIN. DePIN provides clear token incentives to the buyer and the seller, decentralizes these large cost networks, whether it be wireless or wired or, driving networks or whatever. Very, very bullish there. One name we really like is Peak. It's a L1 for DePIN's FTV right now is like 1.5 billion. I think that's a clear winner this cycle. Full disclosure, we've been investors there for a long time and we still hold our tokens, all of our tokens there. But that one is one that folks can take a look at. I think it's going to be still very, very big from here. Of course, bullish on AI, but I think it's really, really hard to underwrite all these individual AI agents or platforms. So we're not actually investors there. We're investors more at the infrastructure layer and the compute layer. I think the FUD around DeepSeek right now is just that FUD. Like it's a lot of trust me, bro. Like, hey, we trained this model at $5 million. Like, I don't trust the Communist Party, whose whole mission is to actually undermine American capitalism and destroy free speech. Like,
you don't trust the Communist Party of China?
A lot of yeah, crazy. So DePIN's the biggest one. Decentralized AI and the components, of course, interesting. Gaming. So prediction in the report is that off the grid's going to be enormous this year. If folks actually want to play the game right now, it's early access on all platforms, but all of the items you earn in the game will be transferred over when it goes to mainnet in the next month or so, and you'll be able to sell those for real world currency. I'm fully addicted personally. It is, and chatting with the folks who are playing the game, it is legit better than Apex Legends and Call of Duty Warzone. Like, these guys don't even realize it's crypto. I'm just chatting with them and I'm like, dude, you got to hold on to your assets. Like, stop selling them on the marketplace because they're going to be worth something. And they're like, what do you mean it's going to be worth something? It's just like, it's just
like, oh my God, we're doing it.
Yeah. It's like, it's crazy. And then I tell them like, this is actually crypto. And they're like, what are you talking about? So it's free to download, like just give it a shot. It's the learning curve is pretty steep, but it's fun as hell. And it's on all platforms. I think that's gonna be huge this year. I think it already right now. If you look at it's on Avalanche, the subnet user base, it has over 500,000 daily active users today in this pre-alpha launch strategy, or whatever they're calling it, testnet. And that's been consistent now for about 3 months. So people really like the game. They have major streamers playing it. Check it out. It's awesome. You can get some money if things go well. And if not, you're playing a really cool game. So there's a number of other ones that are coming out, but that one's the one that's top of mind for me and for us. So for listeners, check out Peak, check out decentralized physical infrastructure across the board, because it solves real world problems. You have big investors in the space doing that. And then I would also look at, Gunzilla, Off the Grid. I know I've been really bullish this episode. I also want to just note a few things that I'm probably out of consensus bearish on.
Yeah.
So
The crowd's
there's going to be a
gonna boo
number.
Boo.
Yeah. Boo. Well, actually, maybe they won't on these, because unless they've been farming the airdrop. So there's a number of major L1s that are going to launch over the next month or two that have ridiculous VC backing that I am flummoxed why I should be excited about. So
drop some names.
Yeah, Barachain,
'Cause I'm seeing it too.
Monad, Barachain and Monad are the ones that come to mind. There's a few others.
What do you think about Scion? We just saw that one last night, and I saw all the backing. Multi-chain or Multicoin is one of them. Barachain seems like they're spending a lot of money. I mean, it's time.
Barachain has taken almost 3 years or 2.5 years to build a fork of an EVM. So I don't know, dude. And they've had $100 million funding. So I don't get it. Celestia, I don't understand either. Why I should be excited about. Improved data availability at zero marginal cost when we have abundant block space at the moment at very high latency and throughput on the execution layer. So bearish on Celestia, Barachain, Monad, don't get. And there's a few others that are launching that I'm just I think we have enough block space. We've sort of solved for a lot of it. And I don't know, Mega ETH is another one, but that isn't at the L2 level and actually could be an interesting catalyst for ETH this year.
I'm kind of interested in that one personally.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little more excited about Mega ETH than the other ones.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Same.
I thought we had
Mega ETH I can kind of get there on. I think we do. Sorry.
We have
good.
A little bit. It's okay. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. No, Mega ETH, I could see the excitement there, and that could be the catalyst for ETH we're looking for this year. The other ones, less so. But if you're airdrop farming those, I think there's going to be a lot of rewards, but net, I don't know. I don't get it why we're doing more of this.
Okay. Well, then give us a final thought, question, suggestion, good joke, word of wisdom, and tell people where to find you. We're just so grateful you made time to join us on the show today.
Appreciate you guys having me. Appreciate being the boomer in the room on TikTok. I'll probably have to start using TikTok more after this, but I'm on Twitter at Dunleavy89. A lot of general thoughts, musings, rants there. And happy to answer any questions, DMs, or whatever any folks have. Very bullish for this year, very bullish for this space. And I think it's important people just remember how far we've come this year and how many wins we have. We have SEC chair, CFTC chair. We have, all of the ranking members of the House, the Senate, the Congress, the fucking president, all pro crypto. The price action may be choppy, but all of the stage is set for all of this capital to come in. So, there's a legit sea change, a legit 0 to 1 moment. And the US is where it's all going to happen, especially with, I don't think these favorable tax legislation that Eric Trump is talking about will actually go through, but they want to build things in America. They want crypto to be built in America. So if you're in America and if you're a project, I think it's all coming to America, and I'm extremely bullish for that. So,
well, our audience is bullish on you. Then they want you to come back, man. So
thanks, Bullmaster Tom. Please come back. Praying emojis. Thanks, dude. This was a lot of fun,
always happy to come back, guys.
Cool.
Good chatting,
well,
guys.
We'll catch you soon. One more time. That's Tom Dunleavy at Dunleavy89 on Twitter. You can find him there. You can check out his predictions for 2025. Give your thoughts, give your comments, and be his friend. Like him. Really like him. So we got a lot of questions on that. If you have a question, this is the Rise Up Morning Show. We're here for helpful news, commentary, answers to your crypto questions, Monday through Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. And Wednesdays, check this out, we go live after dark at 7 p.m. And tomorrow we are welcoming back our friend, Mr. Dennis Porter of the Satoshi Action Fund, Bitcoin advocate extraordinaire, to get his thoughts on what is coming down the pipeline for Bitcoin, for crypto. It's going to be a killer episode, and we would love to see you there. While you're at it, get your thumbs, write it down, take a screenshot. This is the link to the Rise Up Discord server. It is the place the show lives 24/7. It's totally free to join. It's an awesome place to ask your question. If you're trying to learn crypto, it can be like drinking from a fire hose. So you need to get in a community of people, doesn't have to be ours, that have a little more experience than you, who can share a helpful link, who can tell you this is a scam, who can assist you on your journey. Our community is free. I often say the only thing missing is you. So, guys, we had a lot of questions, but I want to know what you think and where you want to take it as we wrap up the show here. What a great conversation, right?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He's full of all sorts
Way to
of
go,
good
Will.
and good info.
Could have easily done 3 more hours with stuff. I wrote so many things down that I think we'll get him back for part 2. Absolutely.
Yeah, we will. Having someone who's from the traditional financial world, who really loves, truly understands the ethos, the mission of crypto, and then how that can be plugged in to all of the traditional financial world as well as government as too. It's just, it's really like peeking behind the curtain a bit, which is great.
One thing I wanted to stress just about why this in particular is so valuable is just because that blending of traditional finance and decentralized finance was always going to happen. And when you have a chance to, whether you agree with it or not, like, let's just say, because, Tom's not the, end all be all. He doesn't know everything. His capital firm doesn't know everything. But what you get there is this, like Will said, a peek behind the curtain, this perspective, like, okay, well, what are big firms like this looking at? What are they interested in? Why are they interested in it? Because that can give you a pretty good indication of which way market trends can go when you're trying to make more educated guesses or be a little bit more strategic or build that investment thesis up higher. That is something you definitely want to consider. I always say, my favorite things are not necessarily the best investments. And so the way that I have to think about it is like, okay, well, from an investment point of view, like who thinks about what and how do they think about it? Just because it is such a big space. We were saying just yesterday about the fact that, what was it? There was like, 12,000 cryptos or something like that. How many years ago? And now there are like 24 million with another million being added every month. It's not even close. You really got to be more strategic about it because big boys are here.
Well, and I'm so excited to see, something he talked about that we really didn't get into is about what the models for tokenization will look like. He mentioned this at the end, and Tori asked about it. What do we think about what he said about crypto only being, like this pure form of hyper-capitalism? And you guys kind of know how I feel about it. And without getting on my high horse and beating it to death, I am really excited I actually think it's quite a clunky system to say, welcome to this PvP arena. Some people will make money, some people will lose money, and all of us will depend on money at the end of the day to get the resources to fully experience life, even though we have enough food on the planet for everybody. Like, what a bad, efficient market. Like, it's just not good. I am very excited for...
I think it's perfect, but go ahead.
You think it's perfect? Listen, man, people don't need to go to bed hungry. We just have so much. And I think I just am excited for the ways the efficiencies of a market can be improved upon, because I think we take a lot of it for granted that this is the best way it could be. And I think crypto will do so much more than just accelerate the flow of monetary capital, which is, you know how I feel. I think it's just an outdated, bad tool. It definitely makes the world go round, but it leaves a lot of people hungry. And I think we can fix it.
Well, I think crypto, we can agree, crypto absolutely lowers the barrier to entry and increases access to liquidity.
Yes.
Oh wait, did I rug?
I'm just agreeing with you. Go.
Okay. Yeah, does all those things. We can all agree on that.
Totally.
I believe human nature needs an incentive, because that's what human nature craves. And there's no better incentive than the ability to get a thing that can get you the things that you want and need in life for yourself and your family and so on. And that's money. That's liquidity. Therefore, you need capitalism. Tori, boo, Will. Boo, Will. The old hog yelling. And I think that capitalism is the best ism. And granted, I've always said this, any ism in and of itself is not perfect. Everything needs guardrails, take pieces from other things, combine, it depends on the problem, right? If there is a problem, I'm open to any solution that is the best fit. Yeah. But capitalism, I think, is the center of how human society should operate and creates the most beneficial society for people to operate in. But guardrails on certain things, right? And Evan, you are correct. If we could create your world where, everyone's like, it's utopian. It's our world. Your world is our world. Yes, that is the mindset I need to be in. Evan's head. And
we're going to be here for
helping
years.
Each other and all that stuff. That would be great, but is impossible and unrealistic given the nature of mankind. And therefore, I think capitalism is the best driver to actually improve the world.
It's a long-term prediction. A long-term prediction.
I'm going to disagree with you there, Will. I think that ingredients of the isms is the way to go. And
that's what I said. But I think the core needs to be capitalism.
Okay, and also speaking of capitalism and systems that are good or not fair, Will, you get 5 points for wow, that's a bad buzzer. You get 5 points for bringing on such a great guest. I think Buffster gave those to you.
Buffster did give them to me.
Buster also had a question. Can you answer this? Just one off really quick. You're teaching a TA class this week in the Discord server. Do people who are attending need TradingView, need to prep, need to bring anything? Because there are a couple of them in the audience. Okay, great. If you're curious about it, you can find information. Will's talked about it. We're talking about it. We do live classes on our platform. Find them in the Discord. I'm not going to do any more commercials. Somebody also asked, since we're talking so personally, where do we hail from? That's another good rapid fire question. I was born in Las Vegas. I mostly grew up in Michigan in a town that was like the opposite of Las Vegas, cold, rural, and now I live in Memphis, Tennessee. What about you guys?
I'm kind of from nowhere, some people would say, but I was born in Denver, moved out as a wee little babe, grew up as a little kid in Maine, then middle school and a lot of elementary school in Northern Virginia, and then I was in Southern Connecticut for high school and college, and then I was in North Carolina for a year, and now I've been in Boston for 9. My heart is in New England. I consider myself a Mainer. I think the best people in the world come from Maine. That's not trying to put anybody down. I just hold Mainers in high regard and esteem. And that's where most of my family lives. So that's where I'm from.
Alex, what about you? We're all kind of from all over the place, aren't we?
Yeah, I was born in Connecticut, in New Haven. When
my sorry, it's just my natural reaction to Connecticut. I apologize.
It's okay. When my parents were in school there, flex, and then I moved. Honestly, I moved all over the place when I was little. Ended up in Tennessee, did a chunk of growing up in Nashville, moved to Southeast Michigan, and did the rest of my growing up there. Went to undergrad in the UP, which is where I met my wife, and then I enlisted and again moved all over the place. Boston was first, lived there for a bit, although I didn't really get to spend that much time there because I was deployed the whole time. And then from there, just North Carolina, Virginia, back to Michigan, now in Georgia. And I'm probably going to be here for as long as I'm in the United States.
Somebody said, Will, if you think the best people in the world are in Maine, you need to get out more.
Agreed.
Dude, you need to go up to Maine more, dude. Nicest, most honest, hardworking people on the planet.
We had a really great question here, too, about the environment. The intolerant leftist on TikTok said, I am really concerned about, and I'm paraphrasing, sorry, leftist, crypto's impact on the environment. And I said, me too. Let's talk about it. So what do you guys have to say about that? Crypto's bad for the environment.
Cue the
debate.
soundboard gross misrepresentation of the facts.
This is a gross misrepresentation of the facts.
And
Thank you, Alex.
Absolutely
Good point,
die on
Alex.
this bill.
Good point, Alex.
tell us why.
So it is absolutely correct and right and a good point of view to be concerned about it. We should all be concerned about it. We should be concerned about every single industry on Earth and its impact. What I find often is that lots of people who are concerned about the environmental impacts of the crypto industry are looking at bad data and they are not concerned about everything that is way worse than it. And that always kind of confuses me a little bit. I think it's a crutch to be mad at the environmental impact of crypto when there are plenty of other things you can be pissed at that aren't misrepresented. So just for context, the majority, and it's been like this for years, the majority of the energy used to run this industry is renewable, more than 50%. Some estimates put it as high as 70%. It kind of depends who you talk to. But general consensus is it is over 50%, and it's been over 50% for years. The other thing is just that which just for the record makes it one of the greenest industries on the planet.
Yeah.
All this is public, by the way. You can look all this stuff up. There are so many things that we don't think about that use more energy. And when we talk about why it's okay to consume energy in some capacity, we think about like, what is it that we're getting?
Yeah.
And if you're introducing an industry like Web3 and blockchain that is meant to disrupt things like traditional finance, like the traditional internet, we look at the energy consumption of all of those things. So for example, if Bitcoin is the tokenized version of gold, as some people equate it to, the gold mining industry is awful for the environment. The transportation of gold, the amount of fossil fuels burned to extract it, to clean it, to refine it, to transport it, to protect it, absolutely dwarfs Bitcoin. Imagine the amount of energy that it would take to transport $1 million worth of gold from California to New York, and then imagine doing that with Bitcoin. It's as simple as me remembering 12 words and moving to New York. That's the transport. Literally as much as it would cost to move me. Christmas lights is my favorite comparison. Christmas lights in the month of December use more energy than all of Bitcoin does worldwide. And that's Christmas lights just in the US. So I do think, to wrap up my soapbox, I do think that we should be absolutely concerned about the environmental impacts of all of these different industries. I would encourage you to take the commitment to push for cleaner, more renewable use of energy in the Web3 industry and ask that of everything else, especially the things that are, being disrupted. Like, and people don't think about how much energy Google uses to run Google searches. Every time you run a Google search, it uses energy. These are things you can measure. So comparing the amount of energy cost, to verify a transaction on Ethereum versus running a Google search or sending an email or sending a text message or all of these different kinds of things. So it's not as bad as people think. The data is all public and available, and I encourage you to look into it. And it's getting greener every single year.
Yep. I don't have anything to add to that. Ding.
I do want to add something really quick, and this is from one of my favorite books, Read, Write, Own by Chris Dixon. He was just on the Unchained podcast, which I recommend all the time. It's on all platforms, unchainedcrypto.com. He is the guy. If you want to just sit down for 2 hours and understand blockchain, crypto, Web3 from start to finish, I would recommend him every time. He has a really great graph in this book that says annualized energy consumption. And it's specifically about Ethereum. A lot of people were really concerned about Ethereum. Just as an illustration of how this stuff can change over time, because Will, you talked about incentives. Crypto's incentive is to get more efficient, is to be easier for people to use in terms of cheaper, in terms of more environmentally friendly. And Ethereum is probably the best example. It used to be tremendously consumptive, if that's a word, you know what I mean, consuming more energy than some countries. They made an upgrade in the way that their architecture is that reduced about 99% of their energy expenditure. And after this upgrade, before the upgrade, they were about 1/10. They consumed as much energy as 1/10 of the banking system. After the upgrade, they consume 1/10,000th of the energy. Airbnb consumes more energy than them. PayPal, Netflix, Google, all gaming activities in the USA consume about 34 times more energy than the Ethereum network. Gold mining consumes 131 times more energy. Global data centers, the banking system. And like Alex said, this is something that is expected to continue over time in terms of how much green energy we use, because the incentive for somebody like a Bitcoiner is to go where energy is cheap and to share the benefits of like the electricity that they purchase but don't use with people who may have never had it before. Bringing people onto the grid, sharing and distributing wealth, like it's a real like, can I get a rise up kind of thing. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, and
Great
then
question.
that incentive system, which look, incentive systems leading to good things, right? We like this kind of stuff, right? For a Bitcoin miner, it makes total sense. Like you need as many revenue streams as possible. So like take that extra electricity, send it off. You want to get that electricity as cheap as possible, improves your profit margins, decreases the likelihood that they need to actually sell their Bitcoin. They can use their rigs to help support the AI environment, provide electricity to people, boost GDP, help people in real life, help the Bitcoin market in the same way. And oftentimes green energy is the most profitable from a profit margin standpoint. So incentives lining up with all these other goals that we want, that is the beauty of capitalism.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, William.
Woo!
One of the things
business
that had we had more time, I definitely wanted to ask Tom, just because I think it's kind of funny. And this is one of my silly predictions for this year. And I'm curious what you guys think, if you've thought about this at all. As sad as I am, because this year I really thought that we had almost a chance, but Detroit is sadly not going to the Super Bowl.
Doesn't that suck?
Yeah, we all wanted that.
Moment of silence.
Lost to Washington of all teams.
And now Kermit the Frog's going to win another Super Bowl.
And you know what? It's okay though. We had a great season, and I'm proud of them. It was a good season. But one of the things that I am thinking about with regards to the Super Bowl is, do you think we will just get an avalanche of crypto commercials, and how fucking bad are they going to be?
Oh, they're going to be awful. I hope it's crypto.com and they just take one of their TikTok videos.
Dude, that's what I was thinking. I was like, no one is more prolific or worse right now than crypto.com with regards to advertising. And I am already dreading the ungodly amount of cringe that is going to come out of a crypto.com Super Bowl commercial.
Oh, seriously.
I hope they just bring out Tom Brady again and just like rag on him for his involvement in investments with FTX. And then it's just like, oh, hey, Tom, there's this like shut off a meme coin. He's just like, ooh. I would love that. I think that'd be a real fun joke.
If anything could send us into, because it's going to go,
pits of a bear market.
Yes. Cringy commercial, crypto Twitter screaming about the ultimate top signal. Because I just remember, but also like, the Matt Damon stuff from last cycle.
Yeah.
That well. So I don't know what's gonna come out. But I thought, like, if someone has the potential to do a good one, maybe Kraken would do one that doesn't make me want to walk into oncoming
scoop
traffic.
out your eyeballs. Yeah.
Wait, you mean you don't want to see Jesse Pollock walk up to like a 70-year-old woman on the street and be like, do you want to get on chain? And she's like, who? What?
Oh my gosh.
Evan, I saw your write-up. Your write-up to him. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Very good.
I'm trying to get his attention.
Dude,
he needs it, man.
I love that idea. The idea of like speaking to people out into the real world, like get yourself out of your comfort zone and try to see if you can talk to someone about this. I've done it many times. I didn't film it because I think that's so fucking cringe. And it immediately just starts the conversation off with someone being defensive and caught off guard, and just like you're not going to have they feel like immediately there's a wrong answer, and like there's so much gotcha journalism with like those kind of blitz style interviews. I'm just like, dude, you are shooting yourself in the foot repeatedly if you're sprinting up to someone on the street with a camera in their face and then ask them a question about something they've never heard of. No one wants to be embarrassed on the internet forever. So I would walk away from you in a heartbeat.
Right. And again, the lesson you're teaching is like, okay, so if I pay attention to this crypto thing, some guy on the street might give me $10 or $15. You learn nothing about the technology. You really understand there's no incentive for you as a viewer to be like, I am going to spend more time learning about this or paying attention to it. It enforces this idea that it's just transactional, and it doesn't really teach people. And I don't think it's that engaging. Like if you want to go viral, I like giving away money is, a time-tested tactic, but $50 ain't enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
it misses the mark.
It's like there's so many. That's one thing I was curious about if they're thinking about, you know, like who's going to be doing the big Super Bowl advertising. But I don't know. He said one more thing, and then I'll this was kind of my final, I guess, ponder. It's always a question every single time you're in the throes of the market, like what's going to be big next market cycle. And I always think about bear markets because there's a few things that just feel like they would do well. You know, like it feels like games could do well because if the game is fun, you're going to be sitting there playing it and people would be stocking up on assets or whatever. However, we thought that last bear market about DeFi protocols, and it didn't really work out that way because, you know, the overwhelming like loss of interest when the general consensus is that crypto is dead usually just means people pack it in and leave, not look for better opportunities. The very small number of people sit there and look for better opportunities. And spoiler alert, that's who really kills it.
Yep.
The reason that we could fall another 60% and I would still be in bonkers profit is because I am that curmudgeon that refuses to leave. So I'm just curious what you guys think about, you know, his idea for the next bear market, you know, with things like Aave, who are just cruising right now. Other big DeFi protocols, there's a couple of other ones. I have a short list that I got from Twitter yesterday of a couple different voices just talking about companies that have found really good product market fit that don't get exposure, like Particle Network, like Aave. You just don't really hear that much about, even though they're absolutely dominating. And then, of course, I wrote down Pump.fun because I'm like, you know, what happens now when crypto gets boring? We go back to memes because they hit the dopamine. So I feel like people are just going to be launching bear market memes the entire time trying to flip something. And I think that GambleFi is just going to carry you through the bear market, to be honest.
Well, GambleFi is carried through multiple bear markets, you know?
Yeah, but I think it's going to just be on steroids this time because we didn't have Pump.fun last time. Yeah,
well, the other thing, too, is the culture in the United States, and I know crypto is international, but United States has a lot of money. People make a lot of money. Is that, as compared to world average, is we have the legalization of sports gambling all across the country, right? So the culture of gambling in the United States is going to be on the rise every single year. It's probably not a good thing. But, you know, the culture of gambling in the United States was generally on the rise. So, yeah, GambleFi should also be on the rise every year in terms of volume, not necessarily the appreciation of their tokens necessarily. They'll be
sure
beholden to a bear market, but like the volume for gambling in America, just as a general trend, is going to be on the rise every single year. So yeah, GambleFi and the bear market will be strong, but at the same time, you have people leave the market. Every single end of a bull market into a bear market, people get burned and have that emotional pain associated to that trend. And you need a new trend at the end of a bear market into the beginning of a bull market to bring them back in and get excited. And even if the other trend is still doing well from a fundamental standpoint, they'll stay away from it because there's that human emotion of that hurt me, that's dangerous. I need to go here because this is safer. You know, it's that survival instinct. And so that's what happens. So I don't think in the bear market you're going to have an explosion of meme coins per se. I think you're going to have the explosion in the bull run. Everything will fall. Meme coins will fall 90% plus or so. And then people go, oh, that burned my hand. I need to look for something else. But then, you know, meme coins make headlines. So like when the bull market comes back again, you know, they'll erupt again per usual. But I don't think we'll see a surplus of creation of meme coins in a bear market.
Well, I hope it was clear. I'm not saying that I think like big memes or memes that exist now are going to like carry us through the bear. I think that like the idea of launching something for that flash in the pan pump and dump is going to increase in a bear market as people try to like crawl out from underwater on things that they bought at the top and then, you know, round tripped back down into the throes of a bear market. That happens every single time. And so now there's like what people look at as a viable tactic to get out from underneath the weight of their crushing bags to pump and dump more meme coins. So I feel like the launch rate will slow down, but I think the velocity would pick up, you know, like the speed at which they fly and then crash and we never see that one again.
Happens every bear market.
But I would not like be stacking memes in anticipation of the bear market. They get absolutely
hammered,
eviscerated.
Totally.
Like
No.
the rate that Bitcoin drops compared to the rate that altcoins drop compared to the rate that meme coins drop is like 40, 70, 99. You know what I mean?
It
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like a rug candle.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
honestly, truly. Did you there was a stat yesterday about, and I forget the numbers. I don't even know if they had numbers on this, but you could imagine, you know, with how many tokens went to Pump.Fun, and like it's only a fraction of tokens that got out of Pump.Fun and went to Radium. But when they do, some soul is like locked in a contract for liquidity, and it's, you know, there. And then if the token lives or dies, that soul is there. And this person was talking about, like, think of how many meme coins have been launched on Pump.Fun and made it all the way to Radium and then died, and how much soul is lost forever. And I was like, oh man,
Damn.
you know what I mean? Like, it's probably a little bit at a time, but like, honestly, that's probably not an insignificant amount. And that's bullish. Like, I'm excited for soul.
No,
You know,
you're
it's essentially a burn, but
You're right too, and actually that's one of the things that contributes largely to the amount of TVL on ETH that will never leave ETH, because it's just a massive accumulation of small chunks of liquidity that are lost forever.
Never thought about it that way. That's
in these
a
locked
real
pools.
good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that shit's never coming out.
it's never coming back.
Yeah,
You know?
it's never coming back. It's like that Bitcoin that's lost in like dumpsters
Dude.
and stuff, you know?
Well, and I mean, people
Potentially
estimate
like 4 million Bitcoin are just
A
like
lot of
gone in
Bitcoins.
trash cans and landfills.
Conservative estimates are 3 million plus Bitcoin lost forever. Yeah.
Well, and you know, that's Michael Saylor's thesis, is he's like, my Bitcoin's going to die with me, and that'll be my gift to the network. And honestly, bullish. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
bullish.
that's exciting.
Yeah.
That it would happen that way, I think. But God,
It's crazy.
what do you guys think? We had I wanted to say, maybe as a sort of my final thought, somebody asked about the Venice token, VVV, that launched yesterday via an airdrop. An airdrop caused the price of the token to just skyrocket. And for people who don't know, Venice AI is Eric Voorhees, Bitcoin OG, made a pivot after getting rich, wanted to do private AI. His thesis is AI needs blockchain. We need it for verification, because in the future, you're going to need to know whether you're interacting with a human or a bot online, especially as they become more sophisticated. You're going to need to have an AI that doesn't share all your data, all your prompts, all your keystrokes. DeepSeek, we learned recently, shares even keystrokes. It shares everything with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. So not that excited about that.
Nope.
And even
Don't like
OpenAI,
that.
you know, they've got a record of your stuff. And like, would you rather have the Chinese Communist Party know everything about you, or the US government, which probably already does? But his thesis is we need
Definitely
AI
does.
that is local, that works with private keys, so it responds only to you. And that's why he built Venice AI. And you can use the product right now. I believe it's Venice.ai. We talked about it. The point I want to make about it is, you know, don't rush out to go buy it. It's in price discovery mode. The APYs are ridiculous. If you've already got it, if you got the airdrop, if you bought virtuals, you might have an airdrop of it. If you had DGen, Tori, you might be able to claim an airdrop of it. And the airdrops are a couple $1,000s for a lot of people. So
I didn't even
I
check.
keep forgetting to claim my Jupiter airdrop. I need to go do that.
yeah, so claim your Jupiter airdrop at jupuary.jupe.ag and check out the Venice.ai airdrop. See if you're eligible for it. And the point that I wanted to make is, you know, I heard about Venice when Eric Voorhees came on the Unchained podcast. I think it was April of last year. And the first thing I did was, because I'm an Unchained maxi, went to the Discord and said, listen to this. This is a great episode. Crypto is going to change AI, and this is how it's going to do it. And at that time, Eric Voorhees had said, I don't know that we're going to do a token. We're not planning to do a token. Obviously, they changed their mind. But the point that I want people to take away is, when you get into a really good, like, information loop, high quality signal, a good community of people who are like, who work here, who are listening to primary sources. The trick is not like, what's happening? Am I early? Because if you listened to that podcast last April, you were way early. If you were in the Discord, you learned about Hyperliquid before they airdropped the token, like, you know, last year. DGen, when you could earn it before you could buy it. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't say that to aggrandize us. We're not like some awesome alpha seekers.
A little bit.
I mean, we're cool, but we have a great community. But the challenge is not like, am I early? What's going to pump? What should I buy? The challenge is, there's so much stuff happening in the crypto space all the time, and you're going to find out about it early. But you're not going to know when you find out about Venice AI a year ago that they're going to do an airdrop today. And you're not going to have time to pay attention to all the early information you get that will turn out to be really good alpha. The market is not like XRP dropped this news today and the price pumps tomorrow. Liquidity is skyrocketing and then they get listed. It's not like it happens like that. It's like Venice AI has been doing their thing. They've been cooking for a long time. Hyperliquid has been cooking a long time before they released the airdrop. Jupiter has been cooking a long time and now there's an airdrop. So the challenge is to find high quality information and then invest your most valuable resource, your time, in the things that'll keep you interested so that you can be paying attention. You can be in the place where opportunity meets preparation and eventually the opportunity is going to hit for you. So, don't feel FOMO, don't chase green candles, but with high signal information, invest your time wisely and eventually you'll get the big payout. That's my final thought for today. Do you guys have a final thought, question, suggestion, good joke, word of wisdom before we ride our dogs and ponies out of here?
Yeah, two things from me. The first of which is on Dunleavy's prediction that there's a top in the market in like Q1 of 2026. I think that's far more likely than having an early top. A lot of people are like saying Q2. Maybe there's here's one thing. At this point of the bull cycle in a 4-year cycle, the summer is typically a down market. If you want to say that's a Q2 top, go ahead for it. But I'm not going to say that's a top. I'm saying it's a momentary lull. The summer is usually bad. But afterwards, there's way too much stuff that is bullish. And as Dunleavy told us, the world of traditional finance takes a while. 3 out of 5 brokers still don't have access to be able to offer Bitcoin to their clients. There's a lot of money still to come.
Insanely bullish.
Yeah, insanely. But there's a lot of money coming. And I think very likely that will extend the 4-year cycle into 2026, at least into the beginning bits. I will still be happy to leave the market around the traditional 4-year cycle, maybe leave a tiny little bit in there, but it might just be Bitcoin at that point for me. But I think an extension of the market top happening in 2026 for both Bitcoin and altcoins in the first half, probably first quarter, is more likely than not because of that. Because the ETFs and the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and all this stuff will lengthen the cycle, and that passive income flow will start just raising the floor and adding continuous buy signals that happen all the time. The last thing I'll mention is just from a macro standpoint that's going to drastically affect markets on Wednesday and Friday for everybody who's listening. Jerome Powell and the Fed, which is the central bank of the United States, makes a decision on interest rates on Wednesday. Everyone and their mother is expecting them to hold interest rates where they are. The important thing is, what does Jerome Powell say in his speech and Q&A session with reporters? Is it bearish? Is it bullish? Is it dovish? Is it hawkish? The other thing, too, is on Friday, we get CPE inflation data. This is the inflation data that the Fed looks the most closely at. And we get that information, should be at 9:30 in the morning Friday, Eastern Standard Time, if you're in the United States. And if it's good, if it's bad, we're currently expecting a 0.2% increase in CPE inflation as compared to the month of November against the month of December. That's not great. If we beat that expectation, markets will be happy. If we have 0.3% or higher, it's not a good thing, right? So be aware for all those things.
Very well. Very well, I will. Alex, what about you?
I would just echo what you said, that you can there are two things that can carry you in this market, luck and commitment. And if you don't want to take a gamble on luck, you can definitely bet on being committed and dedicated and spending time to learn about stuff. That's your superpower, and you're in complete control of that one.
Very cool. Then, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to take us out with the theme song we did not get to play. Shout out to our good friend Keith, and tell you that we will be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time.
My lobster!
Night.
Well, at least it's safe.
What happened?
God, he has my lobster church key, which fell out of my pocket when I was with you guys in Georgia. Thank God
yes, how the turntip table.
I have had that lobster church key in my coat pocket for something like 9 or 12 years, and I cannot wait to get it back home. If you could mail it to me, that'd be great.
Will, if you behave.
Can't even wait till Denver.
Can't even wait till East. I mean, I'll get it back in East. I'll give it back to me in East Denver, but I swear to God, if TSA takes it.
If something happens to that lobster,
something happens to my lobster.
I will fight a TSA agent to keep the lobster.
I appreciate that.
And when it happens, we'll tell you about it on the Rise Up Morning Show. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whenever you listen, thank you so much. Stay safe, be well, and until next time, everybody, rise up.